The information shared on Light Body Radio is for educational and informational purposes only. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed healthcare provider, or qualified wellness practitioner with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or health goal. Dr. Lara May, her guests, and affiliates do not claim to cure, prevent, or treat any condition and are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that any actions you take based on the content are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in to Light Body Radio.
Welcome to Light Body Radio, where science meets soul and healing gets multidimensional. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, functional medicine pharmacist, master intuitive Reiki channel, and certified life and health coach. Here we decode root causes, transmute stuck energy, and empower your full spectrum healing journey, body, mind, and light body. This isn't just wellness, it's awakening, grounded in science, guided by spirit, and designed for your evolution. Let's rise and radiate. Welcome to the next level of you. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, and today I have with us Diana Divine. She is a galactic shaman, author of Mastering Quantum Creation, Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power, and a pioneer in quantum energy technologies. With over 25 years of experience in metaphysical education, she bridges ancient wisdom, quantum science, and light language to support awakening souls and reclaiming their cosmic power. Diana is devoted to activating sacred codes, restoring energetic sovereignty, and guiding others through the path of soul remembrance and planetary service. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Laura, for having me.
Sure. I'm super excited about today's conversation, but I always like to start with all of my guests with your story. How did you come to be this, amazing galactic and shaman?
Yeah, it's been a long journey, over 25 years, I would say, and I cover a lot in my book. So in a nutshell, yeah, I think it was just me being curious. And since I was a little girl, I was born in Soviet Union. So it was a very different world than this world that I live in today. And then I grew up in Israel, actually, in Middle East. So I've had different flavors of different realities and always questioning what is around me, the people, how they behave, the politics. When I was in Israel in the early 90s, there was the Gulf War, there were suicide bombings, there were a lot of incidents in my life where I started questioning death and reality and why people were, transitioning so quickly. And at the same time, I had an experience when I was 14 years old in a bus stop where the bus bombing happened. And literally 5 minutes before, I heard a voice that started telling me that I have to leave the area. And that was probably my first time where my higher self really stepped in, because obviously it wasn't my time to go, and very loudly shouted for me to leave the area. And luckily I surrendered and listened, grabbed my friend, and that occurred. So I think through my journeys, especially in the early 20s, and when I came to the United States, I started really delving into different religions, from Zen to Buddhism, trying to understand and connect to these higher powers. I was questioning my role here. What am I here to do? And so this kind of started, like, I started becoming a Reiki practitioner, I started feeling energy, and this took me to so many different experiences. I started working with plant medicine, so I spent a lot of time down in the jungle with ayahuasca medicine, later with mushroom medicine. I think the plant medicine work really helped me to travel the realms, to really go outside of the body, have the psychedelic experiences, bring back the key knowledge that I needed to receive, and also recognize and remember that I am very much galactic being, very ancient soul, not even from this universe. Been doing this rodeo on Earth since beginning of time on Earth, Atlantis, Lemuria, and served important roles back then as high priestess. But also prior to that, I was in the Lyran system as a princess. I was part of the bigger galactic wars, and then became Andromedan ambassador. I had different incarnations, and that's where I take a lot of my clients through, seeing that, wow, this little life here, this is just one glimpse of reality of what this beautiful soul collected over time and learned from. And now having this experience in this human body, what a gift, to be alive woman now. So yeah, so the galactic aspect didn't come in right away. I think it was like more shamanic, more earth-based, where I started my journey. And that helped me because, working with plant medicine, working with the older rituals, I had the foundation. And when the galactic opened up, when my channeling abilities opened up and light languages that I'm able to channel today, I had the basis. Like, no matter how far I go and how wide, I'm always about coming back here and embodying everything that we collect and being in this body, in all our chakras, in all our energetic fields. And so that's what I help a lot of my clients, is just recognizing our unique energetic signature and how to be grounded, how to anchor to here, to this reality, and how we chose this reality in this particular game of consciousness.
For sure. I definitely resonate with that. I love that. I have a similar path, I also am a Reiki master teacher and a channel, and I also now am aware that I am also a star seed with a variety of different lineages. But again, same, like it didn't come all at once. And I think it's meant to be that way, because in this human life, I think with our human brains, it can be overwhelming. I mean, you hear some people's stories of their Kundalini awakenings too. If it comes too much, it can literally cause different levels of dissociation or even psychosis, or and it sounds quite dramatic, because there is the possibility of that consequence, but it can also be super gentle and like come in like like the lotus flower opening, or peeling back the layers of the onion, whatever the metaphor is that you want to use. And so I definitely agree and resonate deeply with everything you just said too. So why now? I mean, I've noticed a lot of awakening, and that has to, from one perspective, I think it begs the question, well, is that just because that's what I'm also interested in and researching and bringing awareness to as I awaken? I want to help others awaken as well. Or is there really this bigger thing, awakening, unfolding? What do you think?
Yeah, why now? I think it's a big question. I think many souls that have chosen to incarnate in this lifetime, like I said, we've played this game. So we've been on this incarnation cycle on Earth for many years. And the biggest, I would say, golden age that we experienced was during Atlantean period, about 12,000 years or so ago. So we are coming back, many of us, especially the way showers, because we really remember in our role back then. And when this is another chance for us. Some say it's, we went through 6 potential resets. This is 7. That this is our chance on Earth to integrate a lot of these galactic dramas, integrate a lot of the shadow and the light, and also help Mother Earth. She's too alive. She's a being. And a lot of my work actually is not even so much with people, which is part of it, but also with her. I do a lot of planetary grid work. And this has been my big project for the last decade, where I am called to specific areas and I do specific work with the land, and I plant specific seed crystals, devices, I would say, as we've done back from the Atlantean times. So we've had our grids, and if each one of us who remembers is kind of doing the grid work. So grid workers, that's a particular role that not everyone has, but that's one of mine. I'm a blueprintist. So why now? Because now to time we are shifting, right? Everyone's talking about 3D, 5D. What does that mean? We are literally in this process of transition on the consciousness level, on a planetary level, into possibility of next civilization, which is more galactic civilization. So everyone talking about disclosure and actual contact, open contact, which is very possible. Terrell Anka Bashar says that it's possible even in 2027. So it's not that far away. And so I think also moving astrologically, galactically closer to the galactic center within the Milky Way. So there's more light coming our way, more photonic light is activating our DNA because we are quantum. And that's what I talk in my book. Mastering Quantum Creations is remembering that we are the creators, we are the infinite creators, and we are light. And these light particles activating our cells, our cellular memory, our memories, our DNA. And this is kind of that cycle where we coming around and we remembering who we are and that we are part of the Galactic Federation. We're not different from Arcturians, Andromedans, and Dracos. Actually, what's beautiful, we are actually a mix of all of them. We have more than 25 codes of genes of this galaxy alone. Like what a garden they planted in us. And we able to shift them too. We are helping them on the consciousness level because all the dimensions exist, right? There's at least 12 of them here at Milky Way. On Andromeda Galaxy is much more. We actually mirror of Andromeda Galaxy and talk in my book about my story, my remembering of how we came to Andromeda and then created Milky Way. So we are evolving and we uploading this information to this source intelligence. Everyone talks about AI, but really there's like an intelligence, a source of information that we upload and download, and then the whole galaxy is expanding with us and growing with us, and we all evolve. And so, actually, what we're able to do here, and why many of us volunteer to be here, we are from the bottom, so to speak, of the well. We are shifting everyone else up as well. So that's why we chose to be here in this density. Like, why else would we be here? And so I'm excited, even though it seems like doom and gloom for many. And then, these things are difficult in many ways. Like, not everyone is choosing to stay. Many souls are leaving these days, and diseases happen. All of those things. It takes that courageous soul to, to step into sovereignty, to step into being the god and goddesses that we meant to be on Earth, not off Earth, not somewhere else, but here, walking, remembering how we back in the ancient times used to, move stones with our voices, like, calling the thunder, activate the rivers and the waters. I mean, we were able to do all of that. And that was training. And many of us slowly, like it doesn't, like you said, it can't come in all at once because it's just too much power, too much responsibility in the moment. And the human mind that been asleep for so long is only ready for so much. But as you evolve on your journey and you start becoming more aware and more open, it's amazing. Like if you ask me back, I don't know, even 8 years ago, if I would be a channeler and I would be able to bring in all these, weird languages in, I would be like laughing at you. And I was already, Reiki master. I was doing a lot of things, but things are opening up. And that just means that every one of us has that ability. I'm no different than anyone else. We all have that potential within us.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing to point out too, is that all of these intuitive abilities we hold within us already, and they can be taught. We just have to be ready to say yes and to get curious and start exploring and playing. It's so much fun too, right? Just to like bring in the play. I mean, there is a lot of, I mean, let me go back. One of the things that I know for sure is that those of us that chose to incarnate here, we chose to because of the light and the dark existing, in one place. And so you can't have the light without the dark, and vice versa. And so I think that's really important to just keep perspective about too, because it's really easy to get, I think, swept up in the darkness that's happening across the planet. But remember too that with these laws of physics and the laws of this universe, that what you put out is what you get back. And what we create our energetic field to be is what we will attract. And so, I mean, so this is, I want to go into this quantum creation that you teach. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I want to hear this perspective from you as well, but that also doesn't have to be our reality. Like we get to create what we want on, I mean, and I think that's one of the great soul contracts that we've all agreed to, is that figuring out, number one, what is it that we want, and number two, then okay, how do we create it, and how do we create it with our own energetic sovereignty, which is so powerful. And it can also be mind-boggling to even think that we have that much power, but we really do. So tell me your perspective on that, and then how you help people sort of come to this understanding and realization.
yeah. I think you started beautifully to express that. So, and that's, yeah, the premise of my book is exactly that. And where have we lost the power, right? We lost the power through religion, through giving away the power to the organizations, to believe in, the priest has to be that medium translator for our direct connection. But talking about quantum, yeah, so quantum is a beautiful word to describe all this invisible force that outside of the spectrum of our eyes, but everything is quantum, really. And it's just these subatomical, down to subatomical particles that exist around us. This is the energy force. So as creative beings, we're constantly created, right? Even this conversation you and I having, Lara, or painting, or any decisions we make in the moment, we constantly choosing and pivoting. So we constantly creating. So I want us to realize that through our choices, we are creative beings. We can paint a flower, or we can paint the sun, or whatever that our mind can imagine. So in quantum physics, there is this terminology, and to describe nature of reality is few things, right? One is quantum entanglement, which means that no matter how far apart we are, so I'm sitting here in New Jersey, Lara's sitting somewhere else, but we almost like in the same room, because there's really no separation between us. There's no time and space. That's an illusion. So you can do healing, you can do any work, because you quantumly in the same field always. So a lot of the work that I do, a lot of my clients, they do past life regressions, or I recalibrate the energy field, the sacred geometry. I channel, I run new templates. They sit in Australia or New Zealand. As far as it does not matter really, because it, like I said, as though we're in the same space. So one particle that exists in one space can mirror exactly the other particle. So that's one concept. The other concept that's really interesting, specifically for creation, because you use the word attraction, and it's called the quantum superposition, which means that the same particle can exist simultaneously in different states. So imagine, and I love to give this example to understand these difficult concepts, because I'm not a quantum physicist, so I had to come up with them myself to, understand them. So imagine like we watching a ballet, let's say, and there's beautiful ballerinas, and they all spinning on stage, and you have at least 6 ballerinas, right? That, they spinning, and each one is spinning its own way. But there's one ballerina that we all really like. So we all paying attention to that ballerina, and we want that ballerina to be kind of the winner, so to speak. She spins the most beautifully. So the more we pay attention to that ballerina with our intention and attention, she actually accelerates. And in quantum physics, it's like an ocean, right? And there are waves in the ocean. Those are the quantum waves. That ballerina starts having what's called standing wave. So her wave is getting larger and larger, and it hits a moment, a threshold, where all other ballerinas kind of fall away, all other weights fall away, and that ballerina wins. That means that particular choice, that timeline, that ballerina that we fed all our attention and intention is the one that moves forward. So from creation perspective, let's talk about timelines, right? So if all of us imagining and want and paying attention to the highest timeline where we live in beautiful communities together, where it's love and light, where AI is not a Terminator type of reality and iRobot, but more co-created with us like it does in other galactic systems, where, we all cohesively live together. And we have that, let's say, peace and love as a main foundational framework. But we all feed in that with our intention, attention. We want only that. We're not getting distracted with other things. That ballerina is the one, that timeline is the one in our reality that's going to be created. Meanwhile, yes, maybe someone else is continuing feeding the other ballerina, and now what that ballerina might happen for them. That reality, that timeline is happening for them, but that's not the one that we constantly moving forward. So from superposition perspective, these parallel timelines and realities exist all the time. So everyone talks about bifurcation of realities that they like going to be so far apart. In some ways, we already been living that. Some of us are so in like more new age community. We eat healthy, we eat organic. We're very conscious about, how we consume information. We don't watch TV. We consume very filtered news reality.
Right.
Like I'm very careful about what information I'm receiving, right? So I'm already living my reality very differently than someone who's sitting at every morning watching the news, bombarded by toxicity and all that fear vibration that's being fed to them. And then the choices they make throughout the day reflects that. So they choosing those other ballerinas that not really what we want. So in that way, that's how I explain it, because it's all existing. All these realities existing, but I believe we do have the power to make those choices just through our intention and attention. So that's why it's important to be conscious in how we experience our life. So like in the Truman Show, you can just keep on going 9 to 5, doing your job and be very comfortable in this reality bubble where you're kind of ignorant about what's happening. That's one way. Ignorance is a bliss in some ways, maybe. I choose to be conscious creator. I choose in every moment, what I'm creating. I choose how I interact with people. I live next to New York City. So I go, to the city on the train. I look at people, I smile, I interact, I'm sprinkling my fairy dust wherever I go and how I want that frequency to be around me and the environments I'm in. Or you can just pass through on your earbuds and never even pay attention to what's happening. That's another way. And some people choose that reality. So there's no judgment really, right? It's just constantly knowing where your vibrational state is, knowing what emotions you're experiencing. Are you waking up in the morning and you're feeling groggy? Do you want to stay in that kind of emotional home base, or do you want to choose joy and love? And from that state, you get to create. Creation has to happen usually from higher frequencies, because if your energy field is chaotic and it is bombarded by the information, things like that, your energetic field is not stable. So therefore, creation can't fully happen. So that's why people are like, oh, I'm trying to manifest, but it's not happening for me. Well, you have to do the work. You have to, in my book, I cover some of these ingredients. You have to have emotional mastery. So to have you have to be in coherent state. Coherent state means your heart and your brain are synchronized. So there's a way to, it's like going hunting. I like to always give an example of my name, Diana, which is the goddess of hunting. So if imagine going hunting, when you hunting, you have to be really steady. You have to really pay attention to your environment. You have to set your intention. You have to throw your arrow, right? And the arrow is where you put your intention. And so that's a concentrated energy of what exactly you want to, calling in the field, because the field has everything. So to your point of attraction, I don't use the word of attraction. It's more kind of co-creation in some ways, because as you put in your intention there, you throw in your error into the field, and universe is starting co-creating with you, because everything exists. So it's just more now has the hook, and it's like, this is what Lara or Diana want to create. This is what they want to feed. And now every morning we wake up, we trust and surrender that it's going to happen. So we're not controlling how it's going to exactly happen. We can put parameters. We can say, within a month, I would like, to meet this type of individual that would connect me to my next thing. Or, you can call in some things. So in that way, we say it's an attraction. But I actually think it's active co-creation, that we constantly dance in the field of potentiality. Hope that makes sense, because I went through so much there.
Yeah. No, it did. And I even had an aha as you were talking that you even came back to too, like when I use the word attraction now, just with that little clarification that you gave us, now I see attraction is almost like what happens when we're unintentional and unconscious about our
Exactly.
energy and what we're putting out. And even, I think that's probably where a lot of us start when we're learning about manifesting and all of these things. But really it comes back to that the deliberateness, or the being deliberate with our energetic field, with how we're vibrating, with what we're going to put out there, what we want to bring in. And like you said, then that becomes
And what we don't as well. I
exactly,
think
yeah.
the what we don't as well, being clear about that, because I think it's also important to have those boundaries of what serves me, what doesn't serve me, because otherwise, if, like you said, we're not deliberate, then we also attract in a bunch of things that are not the greatest, and we're like, why is this happening to me? Poor me, putting ourselves in this victim position. Like, you actually created that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard one for a lot of us to swallow, especially at different times in our lives. And, like wrapping our head around that too, that I have created even the things that I don't want. And, that's for me, that was a big step on that path of energetic sovereignty and again, like knowing that light and dark exist. We said yes to both when we said yes to incarnating. And that even when we're, on our soul path and doing our soul work, sometimes we're going to, you know, co-create something that we maybe didn't mean to. And that I think that just also helps us gain a deeper understanding. And it teaches us to like just pay even closer attention, excuse me, and be more present.
Yeah, and with great power comes great responsibility. So being responsible for our own reality is important. That's, I feel, also part of the sovereignty that we reclaim in, that, sometimes it's also not against us, but for us. And it's like I always say, there was some ceremonies I used to lead, especially during COVID. I'm not doing those anymore, but I'm doing more like without the plant medicine, Kundalini activation classes. But I always say, sometimes it's not the ceremony that you want, but the ceremony that you need, because actually breakthroughs happen through breakdowns. And
Sure.
that's the phoenix energy that I'm bringing in, the awakening of the phoenix within. Like, the phoenix rises from the ashes, right? But first you got to get into the ashes. You have to die. Part of you has to just peel off. You have to let go of it. It has to sometimes dramatically burn through. And you might be so resistant. The resistance is the biggest issue with any creation, because the ego, even though the soul might want it, the ego is still not ready to let go. And so then there's circumstances that happen, and some can be as severe as, car accidents or diseases or divorces, things that are kind of just like push us through, like full on pressing on gas, where you're just like flying and you're like, what the heck? What is happening? Like, why is this happening to me? And the way I see it, it's an acceleration here. And somehow, you were complacent. You were not doing the work. You did not want to do the work. You wanted to stay in your comfort zone. And this was one way to wake you up and shake you up. And so we have to look at that also from compassionate place and gentle place and say, okay, I understand. Like there is a deeper lesson for me here. I remember back in the day, I just moved to New York City. This is like 15 years ago. And I was like so excited, and I was on the like spiritual path. And then all of a sudden I was studying yoga, and I was in yoga teacher training. And I wake up one morning, and just what we just learned about sciatica, I get this crazy excruciating nerve pinch in my right leg. The next thing you know, for months, I'm kind of wobbling through the city. I'm so slow because, the sciatica like just doesn't let you run as fast as you want to. And there was such deep truth there, such good, I call it turtle medicine, to slow down, because I needed that in that moment to go not so much out, it's New York City. I live right next to Times Square, not to be so out there, but actually go more within and have inward process. And the slowing down, slowing down was the best medicine I could have ever received, because through that I received so much. That version of me that was looking for exterior validation, it just didn't need that anymore. She was okay to just sit there for hours and just watch and be more observant, and stand in the middle of Times Square and feel all the chaos around her and just learn the medicine of stillness. And then within the stillness, there was a connection to the heart. There was a deeper connection to the soul, to the source. So, and sometimes that's what we need. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, one of my very favorite teachers is Esther Hicks Abraham.
Yeah.
She channels the Abrahams. And, she often says life is supposed to be easy. And I mean, that's so simple. But, we spend so much time as humans resisting the easy and, sort of browbeating ourselves down these paths that we either think are supposed to, or that, maybe like we've committed so much time to already, we can't face the possibility of defeat or the change in the path or the pace or the pattern or whatever it is. And it comes down to, you said earlier, which I completely agree with, and I talk a lot about too, is that self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and that understanding, the openness to have that deeper understanding within ourselves, that, to uncover, okay, what is my work here? Maybe, it's as simple as just being loving and kind to everyone I come in contact with, so that maybe just from me today, they don't feel judgment, or, for example. But, that it can be difficult when we have all these things from this earthly world bombarding us. And I think that's why, again, like we have to get specific and get picky about how we're going to be. And one of the other things that really changed my life was learning to care more about feeling good than anything else, and understanding that the law of deliberate intention, as she talks about, is that if it feels good, then it is going to pull me in the right direction. Meaning, like, if it resonates with my soul, not just like if it feels good in my body, but, like if full body resonates like this, I'm getting my intuitive hit. This is a yes, I'm going to go in this direction, versus, like maybe it's a job and you wake up every day and you're miserable and you hate it and you don't want to go. And maybe that's your sign to start looking for a different one, so that you don't have to do that anymore. So you can say no over here and yes over here. So it's also figuring out like what to say yes and no to.
I so it's two words that I like to use. And actually, my friend and I, we were just in Turkey, and we were just kept on, like, we were in this beautiful bubble of energy, and things were just happening for us, and so many synchronicities. And it's beautiful ancient land. It's central Turkey, so it's like underground cities, all of that. But we were in foreign land. But yes, what we were following, we would call it the holy fuck yes. So it was just
Oh, I
like
love it.
energies were pulling us, things were happening, and we interacted, and we didn't have really a plan, but it was just like we just knew where to go based on what things were just feeling, like you said, in resonance, holy fuck yes, in the whole body. And both of us were getting the chills, and I was like, this is what we're supposed to do today, and that's how it's going to be tomorrow. And just following the breadcrumbs, and magic was happening all the time around us. We're getting all these freebies from people with Turkish tea everywhere, and we were just, but we were in the hearts, we were authentic, we were present, we were just paying attention, because paying attention is an important thing. And we were following what we called source overflow. So allowing the abundance overflow to come in, that we open and receptive to it. So back to resistance. If you feel is resistant and is like, I'm not ready for it, I don't want it, that guess what? There's no room for the container to bring you the source overflow, the flow of energies, the magic frequency that can happen. But if you start following that joy, the holy fuck yes, the feeling good, and you open yourself to that, yes, universe, I'm ready, bring it on, and your container is open for that, then expect only miracles, because they will happen to you. Such a different framework and such a different shift. Imagine if we learned that when we were little kids. Instead
I
of
know, right?
work hard, 9 to 5, study hard, study for the test. Like, there was no, it was always, so universe, and maybe Abraham Hicks talks about that too, but when I pull it all down, the other day I had this very transcendental experience, I would say, and I went really far out, probably the furthest I've ever went, through different universes, and it was all I was seeing is expansion, and contraction, expansion and contraction, and all these timelines were like created, and then dissolve it, create. So, and then at some point I hit a moment, I was like, wait a second, what's the point of all of this? And then it was like this cosmic giggles, and they were like, there's no point, but you are making a point. And that's what it is. It's like we expand, and then we contract, we expand, contract. And that's kind of what we're learning how to do. And we get more comfortable with it the more we learn how to expand, knowing also after big expansions, like I came from Turkey, I also had to like lie down for 2 weeks and contract at home. And then, paying attention to your biorhythms, pay attention to the rhythms of life, but also your internal rhythms. How much expansion can you actually handle in your container, where you have to just hold it, and maybe just contract a little bit. You can't be expanding all the time either. How much can you give and how much can you receive?
Right. Yeah, I think that's important for an important lesson that all light workers at some point, or energy, workers, how, whatever phrase or label you want to put on those of us, but that we have to learn is part of that energetic management is how, number one, how do we integrate what we are downloading and what we're learning through different travels, ceremonies, initiations, all of those things.
Exactly.
And then also too, integrating, but then grounding back into our bodies, because we're still earth beings. And until our soul decides to check out, for us to go, back to the source from which we came, that's, I think that actually can manifest in a lot of physical ailments for a lot of people, because they're not grounding, whether they're a light worker or not and aware of it. A lot of people are just so out of their body that yeah, I do a lot of that with my clients too. Is just, okay, come back into the body again, just listen to that heart space, align your breath with your heartbeat again. Yes, for sure, that heart coherence.
Yeah, and I'm also noticing other thing that came up, especially the last couple of weeks. I'm observing that the lower chakras, especially like the root, sacral, the solar plexus, that's where, especially even masculine energy, either it's over dominated or it's not there altogether. So that goes back to the grounding, right? Like all the chakras actually activated where the blocks are, because a lot of the fear vibration also sits in the lower chakras, right? Those are like the lower dimensionality. And yeah, like really scanning yourself and seeing it, but also having practices in place to support your body. So if you don't have practice, it is time for you to have one, whatever resonates for you, whether it's breath work or qigong or kundalini yoga, or however way you can manage your energy field and just have the moment to see like where are you connected and where you're not connected. So when we say grounded, that just means it's disconnected. Like you said, the energy is all out here, but it's not in the body. Or what I'm noticing also, like, we have also chakras outside of the body. For instance, there's the soul star and the earth star. So when I start my Kundalini activation workshops, the first thing I'm actually doing, I'm bringing their earth star, which is 8 inches below the feet, into the position. Often actually they compress. So earth star is on the knees or on the ankles. It's on the body. It's not off the body. So the geometry is not actually in the position it needs to be. So that happens too. So these chakras are important because these are centers of creation, centers of dimensionality of us being here. So yeah, having practice, like again, practice promotes presence, all of it. It's so important, whatever it feels right, because it's going to be different. And sometimes you can, loop them around. You don't have to do the same thing every day. You get bored too. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Getting out in nature. And so let's talk a little bit on that topic, a little bit about crystals and sacred geometry and scalar energy.
Yeah.
And how do these tools support healing and activation, and maybe even, for our new listeners, give them like a brief introduction, if you will.
For sure. So what are crystals? Crystals are essentially like there's crystals in everything now. Our iPhones actually, like, all the chips, they kind of based on the microchips on crystal. So if we go back to ancient times, crystals are kind of like hard disks. So they can hold information. And we can work with crystals that have different properties to interact with that information. So our field, like I said, our original blueprint, we are angelic beings, right? We are beings of light. And all that information already exists. But often enough, we get so distracted that we're not paying attention to the information. So when we work with a specific crystal, the property of a crystal is reminding us and reminding our body and our field of that particular quality. Some people, for instance, use tourmaline for protection, but is the crystal really protecting? No, it's more how it's interacting with your biofield. So that's on the crystals. When it comes to quantum technology, it's similar in nature in the way that, again, it's not like the technology is healing you. The technology is essentially creating a 0-point field where it reminds you that optimal place. Let's say if you were sitting by a waterfall and you had all these beautiful, ionic light coming your way, you would just feel lighter. You would feel more coherent, get back to coherence. It's all about harmonization and coherence and resonance. So the universe loves harmony, right? So if you look at all the sacred geometry, like from a flower to shell, everything has its beautiful patterns of creation because they harmonize, they're just beautifully structured. So if we just start from energy has to somehow physically manifest itself. So it starts putting itself into containers of light. So the sacred geometry, like flower of life, as many of us know, and then Metatron cube. So like Metatron cube is the one I have on the side, is just another beautiful sacred geometry. Many of these geometries are just angles of energy. Like think of them like containers of the energy and consciousness. So the more perspective, the more sacred corners, so to speak, you have, the more you're able, for instance, to see the situation from different realities. And so before we were human beings and we were just energy, the architects of reality, 6 dimension or so, created these sacred geometries. And then these sacred geometries basically consciously created into form. And this is one form. Now the galaxies are different forms. All those forms are beautiful. The co-creators had an idea. Actually, it's very interesting. In Andromeda Galaxy, we couldn't create physicality because vibrationally it was too high. So we had to create a smaller mirror galaxy that could have this type of density. So it densified. So why sacred geometry is important? Because when we have sacred geometry in a field next to us in whatever forms, when we look at it or interact with it, we reminding ourselves constantly, oh, we actually this at the end of the day, right? And so the quantum technology operates in the same way. When we sit, for instance, between lights, or I work with a lot of different new tools that we've been creating with my husband, different frequency bandwidths, things like that. And they also meant to energize your field. So scalar is to energize your field, energize your mitochondria. Mitochondria, which is small organelle in our cellular structure, the one that produces energy, or ATP. It's very sensitive. So when you have those goosebumps, or your hair stands when it's in residence, you're like, ooh, my hair stands up. That must be true. Guess what that is? That is mitochondria, because mitochondria is multidimensional. It actually reacts to the truth, to the energy, way before our brain synapses can process what just happened. But what happens if your mitochondria is dysfunctional? And many of us actually have mitochondria that's not working properly. And a lot of mitochondrial DNA is actually through the maternal line. So if there were traumas in the family, ancestrally, and this and that, like the body it's the battery, right? The power cells of everything. And if you don't have enough energy in your body, unfortunately, chronic diseases, all these manifestations. And what is disease? Disease is lack of ease, right? So as we have resistances and traumas and all of that, and mitochondria is not working properly, then the body in the field just doesn't have enough energy to be in its optimal alignment, because all of this is to come back to original blueprint. So this is what quantum is for. And I believe quantum technology, and like with the med beds, everyone talks about, we've been creating our med bed, and we have these crystal lights and we lie under it. And as I feel exhausted after a day and I lie there, I go right into parasympathetic, which means my nervous system comes down. It's no longer in fight or flight. I can relax. I'm allowing my cells, my organs to regenerate themselves. And I come out much more energized because finally my system could relax. And as we are bombarded by EMFs, 5G towers, you name it, right now there's just too much noise in the air. Our systems are not able to relax. So if they're not able to relax, they can't get back into alignment. And that's what all of this, I feel, is for, is constantly coming back to alignment and, being deeper with what we meant to be doing, how we meant to be in, which is relaxed, not stressed.
Right. Yeah. So before we wrap up, let's talk a little bit about the grid work and the earth activation that you've been doing. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what is it? How do you do it? Where do you do it? Can people do
I
it
can't
themselves?
disclose too much about it because it's a secret project in some ways. I can talk about it, but I can't say exactly what I'm doing, just because if we go back to Atlantis, the grids got hijacked. And they got hijacked by kind of higher beings, but I think there was a reason why things were secretive, why we had secret schools and mystery schools, and not all information was disclosed, because and it's not like, oh, it's like a special society. No, it was just because there was reverence around it, and because there's certain things that not everyone needs to know. But in a nutshell, everyone can do grid work. It's connecting to earth, and it's listening. And my journey, I've been called to places around the world in the last decade or so where there's a specific vortex of energy or a specific connection that just needs your energy, needs your light codes, because each one of us carry these particular, like we were saying, this particular information that we brought from the stars. And it's time for Earth to reawaken. And so she needs you there. So think of it like I like to call it like acupuncture. Like you get the needles in, but she needs
Mhm.
needles as well for her to also activate and remember. And that's how I really see it. It's more like being called, listening, coming there with a lot of reverence, with a lot of offerings to the land, because there's other elemental beings that live there. And however you feel is, you need to activate the land, because it will be very different for each person how they do it, and you know how they remember. And I feel like presence alone is even enough. And like you said, being with nature, being with the trees, listening to the trees, there's something that is res- um, reciprocal, meaning you
Mm.
activate the land, and land also activates you, especially
Mhm.
vortex sites. For instance, Sedona is one of my favorite places, and I go there almost every year. I just had a retreat there in April, and every time it's different. Every time the vortex interacts with you differently, and your connections, because you grow too, are different, and you receive new downloads in the way you interact with the land, and how you receive information. So, but you can also do it locally in your community. If there is your favorite park, and grid work can even mean like you just going and making sure the park is clean, that give your trees a hug, that you just maybe sit on the bench there and do breath work, and you connect with everything that there is there. You are part of this interconnected, woven tapestry of reality.
Mhm.
And paying attention to that. The trees talk, everything talks.
Mhm.
And so there's no right or wrong really of how to do planetary work or grid work. I think it's how that shows up for us. And I believe that is always correct.
Yeah. Well, and you spoke about earlier the opening up to the abundance overflow. And I feel like that's one of the easiest and simplest ways to probably just start is like you said, like going to a park, or for me, I live in the Lake Tahoe area. So I'm lucky
Ooh,
enough to be surrounded by forests and trees and mountains and lakes and rivers and all the beautiful things. And so just going on a walk and having that intention of I am opening myself up to that abundance overflow, and that it will flow into the earth. And like you become one with with Mother Earth, and really feel that flow, and it's just how loving and powerful it is,
yeah,
but knowing too that you're contributing back.
we're the bridge. And then the only other part I would bring, because I help others activate their light languages or their soul expression,
Hmm.
also bring in your sound, like bring in your sound to the space, whether you want to hum or tone or sing, or even just whatever comes, whatever voices want to come from you. That's another way to bring your light codes, your specific signature to that space as well. Like when we were in Turkey, we were singing a lot in different caves, and they interact. It's me talking about resonance, like
Hmm.
all these codes they stored in this uh, in the stone, and also in the theoretical blueprint of the space, and some of them are so ancient, and your tone, your voice activates them too. So there
Hmm.
is that level of connection through sound that I really encourage. So go to the
For
forest,
sure.
connect to, I always talk about connecting to the fairies, because they're
Hmm.
fun. And yeah, there's so many ways to do it.
Beautiful. Well, tell everyone where they can find you and find your book. And then, oh, there's also, we have a your soul code mystery also. So tell everyone
Yes,
about all the good things. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So, to learn more about specifically what I was talking about, opening your soul expression or soul code mastery, your divine languages, in deeper connection. If you want to, you can bring that in, and you can use it in any modalities. It's such a beautiful thing. I feel everyone now. We've all been talking about telepathy, but I do believe light language, or source language, as I call it, is evolution towards telepathy. It's our pure heart expression. And so, yes, sourcelanguage.org is the website. And there's actually a course you can take it, and with coaching, without coaching. I have actually for 8/8 for Lionsgate a free webinar and activation we do every few months. So you're welcome to that. It's at webinar.sourcelanguage.org. You can sign up for that. My book is available on Amazon. It's been doing great. Mastering Quantum Creation. You can see it behind me. Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. So I cover a lot of these chapters from, light language to sacred geometry to what we're talking about, quantum creation. I packed a lot in there, but through my journey. And so it's relevant. It has activations and website where you can do meditations with the book as well. And lastly, I want to open the card for us. Somehow, during this process of writing a book, I also created an oracle deck. It actually was channeled. It was, as I was finishing it, I got guidance to create a tool. So it's been really great. So let's see what the message for us. Oh, wow. Look at that. Oh,
that's beautiful.
Yes. So this is Ma'at, the Cosmic Law 1. And for those who are not familiar, Ma'at comes from the ancient times. That was like the order of principles of Ma'at is how in ancient Egypt they lived by. They had 42 principles and more. But it's essentially about balancing the equation. The principle of divine balance governs all things. Align your thoughts, words, and actions with divine order to restore harmony. And it's beautiful. Because according to Ma'at, when the soul was actually dying and passing to the afterlife, your heart was weighted against the feather. So if your heart was lighter than the feather, then it would move on. And if it was not, it had some other trials. So that's how they lived. So it's always about finding that balance, right? Everything we're talking about between shadow and the light, finding the balance within yourself. And being conscious creator, observing it all. Like, how are my actions aligning with my integrity? How, choosing how your day starts. Like, just, go to joy, get really excited about your day, put out there, call in that magical frequency into your life and just be open to receive.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for all the beautiful work that you're doing, for your beautiful presence and your book. I'm so excited.
Thank you. And DianaDivine.com is my website. So it's like DianaDivine.com. So you can find all that information there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And everyone, definitely check out the book, the Oracle card deck, the course, whatever you are attracted to or called to. Don't doubt your intuition. Just say yes.
Well, definitely say yes, and say yes to source overflow.
Yes, source overflow. I love it. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you on the next episode, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Many blessings.
Thank you for joining me on Light Body Radio, where functional medicine meets intuitive healing and transformation happens on every level. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and if you're ready to go deeper, visit drlaramay.com to book a functional medicine consultation or an intuitive healing session. Whether you need to rebalance your body, clear your energetic blocks, or reconnect with your soul's purpose, I've got you. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Dr. Lara May for daily inspiration, energy updates, and healing tools. Remember, your healing is multidimensional, and so are you. Until next time, honor your body, trust your intuition, and activate your light.